action! Activate!
It's me, Gazbot. I almost wasn't on screen, but here I am now, and I'm here for Action Activate. And if I am Gazbot, and this is Action Activate, then with me, as always,
Operation Overdrive is my favorite season.
It is I, the Big Dog. Fake news aside, I'm here, ready to talk about some more Lightning Collection. Top 5 or top 10, part 2, part who knows out of how many?
We'll see. I think we ended on Ninja Storm, didn't we?
I believe we ended around the Disney era.
So we're picking up 2004 Power Rangers Dino Thunder. You had something to say? Go ahead.
We talked about this briefly before the show, but we both have been so used to doing the Dino Fury reviews, and I enjoyed them. I don't want anybody to think I didn't. This is the first week in a while where we both went, oh, we just talk about Power Rangers. Didn't really need to do any hard prep.
Right.
All right.
It's not even necessarily that it's hard work. It's you want to make sure you watch the episode. Maybe you take notes. You have things to say. Whereas this is more a conversation we would just have in the car anyway.
Exactly.
Like, hey, let's talk about figures we like. You don't have to really do a lot of research and prep. You can just do it. So it's less pressure, I guess.
One thing, just to confirm for those longtime listeners and viewers, Hasbro's listening, because after our last video dropped, we already have to change our top 5 because one of them already got checked off the list.
Yes, sir.
Blue Centurion, you and I have not talked about these two reveals.
No, we haven't actually.
What are your thoughts?
I was shocked when I saw Blue Centurion. I shocked. I figured maybe they'd make them eventually. I was also very surprised that they did In Space Silver again, but then I realized / remembered that was a Walgreens exclusive that some people had a really hard time getting. And so I guess it makes sense to do a reissue. I don't really care about the cycle. I know some people do. I wish the cycle converted to a glider, but whatever. It is a different head sculpt. It's the third head sculpt for Zane, which is odd. Yep. The gold looks kind of nice compared to in the pictures they had. It looked better than the one I have in my case. So I found myself thinking two things. One, well, A, I'm getting Blue Centurion. B, I wish Blue Centurion came with a bike instead of Zane. And I hope they don't do a super deluxe one later for him where I have to buy it. But Blue Centurion I'm buying. Zane I will buy if I see him on deep discount because I already have him, but this one does look a little nicer, but not nice enough that I'll buy at retail.
I have the same thoughts exactly. One thing I found interesting is both those boxes look to be the same size for no reason that we're aware of.
Because it's deluxe.
Which
I mean, there's probably just a lot of padding in there, but they do that with Black Series and other things too. If they have a little Grogu figure, it's still the same size because they all go in the same case.
So I still plan on, supporting this. One thing I find interesting that I hope changes things, and we'll see these changes probably not for a little while because so much stuff has been announced, is recently another HasLab did not launch.
Right.
And it was the HasLab.
Just real quick, for people that are tuning in to see the top 5, top 10 list, we will get to it.
We will.
Welcome to the ramblings of Action Activate because we are already off topic. So please continue, sir.
So there was a HasLab recently. The reason I'm bringing up Hasbro owns the Power Rangers brand. Right, that's why this is relevant. They did a Kickstarter, essentially a crowdfunding for a Ghost Rider figure, 6-inch, about the size of a Lightning collection, and his car with some accessories for $350, which is grossly too much money. And everybody went in two camps. Oh my gosh, we've been asking for this. Please support it so I can get it. And oh my gosh, why would you give Hasbro this money for something that is not worth the price? Right. Now, the second camp won because it did not get funded. Now, I'm hoping what this does to Hasbro is, we can't just jack up the price to jack up the price anymore. We kind of either need to give more value or bring expectations down a little bit. And this, I think, is the Blue Centurion, I think, is in that former camp of it's another figure. We could sell it as a regular figure, but why not pad it, make it deluxe for no reason?
Here's why I think they're making it deluxe. And this, I'm not defending the company because I'm annoyed at the price hikes as much as anybody. I think a lot of it is fake, just inflation to get profit. But there are some actual added costs that I think they're just exaggerating. And in the case of a figure like Blue Centurion, it's almost all original like molds, and they're not going to be able to reuse a lot of that. You make a new Ranger, it's good for the whole team, except for a couple little changes and things like that. So I understand why they would want to charge more because it probably costs way more than any other figure to make, but give him some explosion effects, give him his motorcycle. Like, I'd rather pay an extra $10 and get the motorcycle. You know what I mean?
Or put him in a 2-pack with another Ranger.
Sure. Yes.
Like, there's so many easy options that they've already done where, like, this is like, there's no justification in my mind why this is the way it is. Like, there's no reason it should be a deluxe figure with no extra accessories. Everything about it is a basic Lightning Collection figure.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And like I said, I think part of it is corporate greed.
Yes.
Part of it is some prices have gone up of materials and stuff. That's true. Again, I think they're inflating it. And part of it is, I don't know what the other part of it is, but yeah, it's inflated more than it needs to be. How about that? I accept that prices have got to go up a little.
Here is a competitor's figure.
McFarlane Toys
for $20.
Yes. Well, McFarlane's been doing it great. Well, here, see, we're getting so in the weeds.
I know.
One of the things about McFarlane figures, and there's many things of why it's different, but one of the things of why it's different is Todd McFarlane, famous comic book artist who owns this company, is a very wealthy man. He owns the company. Now, he's a business. There are other people that he works with, but he owns it. He doesn't have to answer to stockholders. Hasbro, no matter who the CEO is or the brand manager or whatever, they have stockholders who expect the stocks of the company to rise every quarter so they make money. That's how it works. I hate it, but this is the world we live in. And so Todd can say, I'm going to charge $20 and maybe I make a little bit less, but who cares? I'm still making tons of money. Hasbro could be making tons of money, but if it's not increasing, then they get pressure from stockholders. Hey, you got to change things up. Todd can also say, hey, I'm going to make 5 figures in this assortment. 4 of them cost me $10. I sell them for 20. The 5th one is going to cost me $15. I sell for 20. I'm making less money, but it's really cool. And people are going to like it. I'm making these numbers up, but he can make those decisions unilaterally and he can take less money to make a cool toy. Hasbro can't.
All I'm saying is you and I have both discussed on and off camera multiple times that with all of the changes Hasbro has done in the last 3 years, we have significantly decreased our support in certain areas simply because, like,
absolutely,
I'm not playing that game anymore.
We're gonna keep recording, but I'm gonna say this is no longer gonna be part 2 of Lightning Collection. We're gonna make that another video.
Okay.
We haven't at all talked about it. I'm gonna retitle it, and it's gonna say something like the problem with Hasbro or what's going on with Lightning Collectors.
That's
because
fair.
now that's what we're talking about, and that's a worthwhile thing to talk about. But I think 8 minutes in, we haven't started our list.
That's fair. That's fair.
So yeah, it's the packaging and the packaging is a tough one too. And people have talked about that today, the windowless packaging. And the thing is, I am all for saving the planet. I support that, but I just don't feel like this is. There's got to be a better way. You know what I mean? I don't think this is, and it makes me wonder, like, is this actually making that much of a difference, or is it saving them money and or just good press? You know what I mean? Is it how much, like, what are the metrics of how much is this really helping? Because if it's like, oh no, here's proof that it's like, the equivalent of like a state's worth of energy every month. Okay, fine, then great, then we'll deal. But it hurts. We've seen, look at these terrible paint apps and look at the arm that's broken off that you couldn't see, not to mention the swap outs and just the idea of like seeing a box with a picture. You ever watch Spectre Creative?
Maybe once or twice, but not regularly.
This guy, he's I forget his real name, but he used to be the brand manager for Mattel when they were doing Master of the Universe Classics. He's basically responsible for that.
Saw him on Retro Blasting. Was he the one that debated with him?
They don't like each other.
Yes, I saw that episode.
Yes, and I watch both their channels. But Retro Blasting is a super fan, and Spectre Creative is also a fan. And he said, "This is the thing. Like a lot of people working toys are not fans. not that they hate toys, but they're business people that understand accounting and numbers and this and that and marketing. And he does too. He just happens to also be a toy collector. And he's like, and I've met a few. It's not like there are none, but usually it's just who knows how to do stuff. And then they get moved around every couple of years. So even if somebody is doing the right thing, they might just get shuffled over and now they're on a new brand. And so he does a lot of defending corporations, but also he's defending it, but he's explaining it.
Yeah.
Is how I look at it. Like it's not so much like he's like, I think this is great. He's like, this is just how it is. And I know because I was there. Retro Blasting's like, well, you don't work for Hasbro today. You worked for Mattel 5 years ago or whatever. You know, it's like, all right, well, but he still knows more than you, you know, like, but they both have their ups and downs. But why did I bring up Spectre Creative? I don't remember.
About how he explains stuff for Mattel and how it pertains to Hasbro.
If you watch Spectre Creative, what were we talking about before that?
The windowless packaging,
Windowless packaging. He was saying how, and here's an example. Like, yes, he defends corporations in the sense that he can. It's more that he explains why they do things. I guess is a better way of putting it. But he is on board with everyone else of windowless packaging is a bad idea. And what he was saying is, from a marketing standpoint, from a sales standpoint, windowless packaging reads as activities. It doesn't read as an action figure. It reads as a puzzle or a model or a game. And that's just like subconsciously, that's how most people perceive it. And so if you're a Marvel Legends collector, you're going to find it. But the average person or parent or whatever that's looking for a Spider-Man figure might not even realize they're looking at a Spider-Man figure. They might think it's something else. And so that's bad, mostly for growth and new blood coming in, which is important. The other thing I've been seeing recently, which isn't for Spectre Creative, but just around, you know how some figures now we're getting the pinless joints where you don't have those two little dots there? That's great. It's a little inconsistent. Not all of them have gotten it. But what's been happening is they'll show a picture of a figure, Spider-Man, Red Ranger, whoever, and it has pinless joints. Awesome. But inside the figure has pins. So they've photoshopped the picture, and it's not a piece of art. It's not a painting. It's not, a comic book rendering. It is a photo of the figure you're supposed to be getting, because you can't see it through the box anymore, that they have digitally enhanced to look better than the product you're getting. That's fraud. That's false advertising. Now, I am not super upset about pinless or not pinless. I don't really care as much as a lot of other people. I think pinless is better.
Yeah.
But I do care that they're saying you're getting one thing and you're not getting another. It's the same as if they said you're getting an accessory you don't get. It's just, it's a thing you're getting. And that's not cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think, again, like we've said it a bunch of times, we like a lot of these brands. We want to support them, but it's this weird spot where, like, I don't want to, condone this behavior and have you keep doing it when clearly it's, not good for anybody.
Right. And then there's the other thing of, like, everything is, and Hasbro's guilty of this, but so are other companies too, of, like, it used to be you can go in the store and buy it. And if you wanted to be sure you were going to get it, you pre-order it. And maybe you missed something and now it costs a little bit more or whatever. But now I feel like if you don't pre-order it, you're probably not getting it. Because, for like 50% of stuff.
It's very hit or miss. It's literally one of two buckets. It's exactly what you're describing, or because we've had this situation happen for you where it's like now it's $5 at Ross.
Yes, that's the other side of it, is that, like, it doesn't show up, you don't see it forever, and then it's dirt cheap. And I've pre-ordered, and talking about Power Rangers too, I've pre-ordered Power Rangers that I never saw in the store. A good example is the Cat Zeo Pink 2-pack that's out. I pre-ordered that ahead of time because I knew I wanted it, and I was like, okay, I want to make sure I get it. It's a GameStop thing. I think it was a GameStop. I don't even remember.
I think it is, yeah.
And it was like, and I've had trouble with them before, and I know I want the Zeo Cat version and whatever. And so I pre-ordered it for full price. Never saw it in a store, and then now it's like, oh, you could get it for like $20, and it's like, so I feel like a fool for buying it. But on the off chance but if I didn't pre-order it, I would never see it for sale. It's such a weird. And distribution's a mess too, because we might see a stack of one figure going on clearance, and across the country, they're like, I've never seen that figure. People are selling it at conventions for double retail. Like, they can't figure that out either. So it's the hobby is a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, it is hard. And again, like, kind of like I was saying before, so many things that you and I happen to like fall into that bucket. But I feel like between the two of us, I am the one that diverts more, where I'm like, Look at what's going on over here. What's going on over here is looking pretty cool.
Specific.
Like the McFarlane stuff is a prime
Right.
example where like there's not really that
McFarlane-
problem.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Todd's a human and he has foibles and he's not perfect and he's made mistakes. But I have been a fan of Todd McFarlane since I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And unless something really horrible happens, I'll probably always be a fan of his to some degree or another. Both as an artist and just as like this rugged individual, egomaniac / charismatic guy. Like he's a maniac, but there's something appealing about that to me that I've liked since I was a kid. And I like I just defended the way he's running his business. I'm like, the way he's doing it is because he can do all this stuff. My issue with Todd McFarlane Toys is that he doesn't make anything I care about. He makes like Walking Dead and Game of Thrones and DC superheroes. DC superheroes is the closest, but I don't really, so like that. I have no issue with Todd. When you're like, look at this, doesn't this look good? I'm like, great, but it's not Star Wars, it's not Marvel, it's not Power Rangers, it's none of the stuff I'm like collecting really. Best case scenario, I pick up like one or two, like a Blue Beetle or Booster Gold or some of my favorites, and that's it.
DC and Spawn are awesome for him. He does have a bunch of other things that they dive into. I know like the Avatar figures he's doing now for the movie, which I don't either, but
I mean, good for him because somebody's got to make them, whatever.
Yeah.
Going back to what you were saying about packaging with Blue Centurion being in the big box. Have you seen the little figures? It's 6-inch scale, so the avatars are huge in the movie. We're talking about the blue people, not Aang and the Firebender.
Because he also does those.
Yes. The humans are not 6 inches with gigantic blue people. It's 6-inch blue people with little tiny humans with like a bunch of accessories and stuff that come in the same size box. To go back to what we were saying earlier, like sometimes they just do that, and even Todd's guilty of that one.
But he's also not charging $35 for it.
Is he charging the same price for the humans that he is for the Na'vi? That's their name, the Na'vi.
I don't know. I haven't looked into it as much.
All right. Well, yeah. So you were being a little vague. Like, look over here, and you cited specifically McFarlane Toys. What else?
And I did this with you in person, and shout out Retro Blasting. He's a fan as well. Action Force.
Action Force. Okay. Explain more because I kind of know what you mean, but explain.
So Gaz is a bigger G.I. Joe fan than I am, especially for the toys. And
by a lot, probably.
Yes, by a lot. Action Force is similar to G.I. Joe, but not the same. It's part of the new toy line is part of the Valaverse, which is its own thing, but uses inspiration from the Action Force toys of the 80s that were G.I. Joe adjacent. Wasn't that like what it was called in the UK?
Oh, I think in the UK it may have been called Action Force, but you're conflating two things. G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero specifically, because there have been different incarnations. There was the big Barbie doll one stuff. But in the 80s, there was a Real American Hero, which had the cartoon, and it had the 375 O-ring figures that went to like 1990, I don't know, 7, 8, whatever. It was like 10
Something
years.
like that.
Like 82 to 95 or whatever. And that was a Real American Hero era. And I believe in the United Kingdom, it may have been called Action Force because G.I. Joe Real American Hero makes no sense if you're not American.
Yeah.
That being said, Action Force that you're talking about has nothing to do with that. That was it was G.I. Joe and everything except for the name. It was all the same characters, all the same vehicles, same story. Action Force was, I don't know if it wasn't a knockoff, but it was like, hey, we're an Army line too that's out around the same time. And, and I don't know that much about it. So I could, maybe there's more to it than that. But as far as I remember, there was no cartoon, there was no comic book, no nothing else. It was just the toys, and they were less expensive. And my memory is that they were less good. I could be wrong about that because I didn't really collect them. Now, the modern day version is a smaller independent toy company
with its own universe and its own comic.
Yes, and I support that concept, and I like these smaller toy companies being around. And I think the figures I've seen do look really good. You brought one over to my house; it looked awesome. And probably the reason they're able to do this is because getting a license to Action Force is probably a tiny, tiny percentage of getting a license to G.I. Joe.
Absolutely.
Also, Hasbro owns G.I. Joe, so they're, now, here's the issue. Could I, as a G.I. Joe fan, potentially get a few Action Force to fill out my G.I. Joe shelf? Absolutely. And if I was a G.I. Joe collector, if that was like what I collected, that was it, then I probably would get a bunch of Action Force because they'd be good background characters. I can pretend some of them are some Cobra soldiers we've never seen before. But I'm not a G.I. Joe collector. I'm a toy collector. It's like, okay, Transformers, Power Rangers, Marvel, He-Man, G.I. Joe, and more that are not on display here. So I have a limited amount of space for each of my genres. And if I'm going to dedicate space to G.I. Joe, let's say I can only fit 50 figures, 100 figures total through my entire collection. Do I want random Action Force guy that looks kind of cool, or do I want, like, I don't know, Frostbite from G.I. Joe, who's a character that I watched in the show and liked, and or had a figure of it, so that I'm never arguing that they're not good figures. I'm never arguing that they're not a better value. I'm arguing they're not making the characters I want, with the exception of Sergeant Slaughter.
Yep.
But I already had a WWE Sergeant Slaughter that looked pretty much like the G.I. Joe version, and now Hasbro's releasing the G.I. Joe version. So,
Yeah, to me, because I'm in that camp of, I had some G.I. Joe that I thought were cool, but I'm not as invested. Like, this is just another example of same scale, similar price point, but leaps and bounds different QC and value.
Yes, I agree with all of that. And this is the same reason Hasbro gets me with Star Wars and Power Rangers and all this stuff. It's like they have the license to the IPs that I want. And they know, and that's true of most of us, that are collecting. It's not like Hasbro is the best. It's Hasbro is the best for unless you want to go, I'm going to get a 12-inch figure from Hot Toys for $300. Like, if you just want a bunch of figures on your shelf, there's not a really, other than Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, where there's like a million different options, but I want my figures to match. That's the same reason I'm not getting the little Shoto figures or what are the build ones? Not the Megazord. What? Not the Mini Pla. Mini Pla is the Megazords, but I keep seeing Sentai figures that look awesome of like seasons that we haven't gotten over here, but they're like models that are like 4 or 5 inches tall of like.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the Shotos.
Mini Pla?
No, I think you're talking about the Shotos.
That is Shoto. Okay.
They're like mini SH figure arts almost.
Yeah. And those look cool, but they're not going to fit on what I got on my shelf, And this comes back to how you collect. Well, anytime it's a problem, like a lot of these problems are universal, but a lot of people have come to my attention, don't collect as many diverse things as me or even you. A lot of people are like, I collect Marvel, or I collect Power Rangers, or maybe Power Rangers and Star Wars or something. And so if you only collect Power Rangers, I don't think scale is as much of an issue, because you could be like, well, look, here's all the different Mighty Morphin, and here's like 50 Red Rangers, and here's a bunch of and your whole collection could be spread out. But like all my Power Rangers are right next to each other, so that I want them to match.
I'm with you. I have a semi-diverse scale collection, but not crazy anymore.
More than me, but not as much.
Yeah, but I think kind of bringing it back to to the second topic we were talking about. I think this is officially that turning point where, like, for not just Power Rangers, but all of the Hasbro brands, it's you guys need to pull it back a little, and like people aren't doing all 9 of these inconveniences anymore.
Yeah.
And my fear, and I'm sure your fear is similar, is they don't stop that, and then they're like, well, these aren't successful.
Right. And I've heard other people talk about that. Like they're making bad business decisions, and then people aren't buying them, and they're thinking, well, the people don't want this. And it's like, that's not the lesson to learn here.
Yeah.
Here's the big problem there's a million problems. Let's say they learned their lesson and they wanted to change tomorrow.
Yep.
Because business is business, there is no world in which they're going to bring those prices lower. These are the prices we're at now. They're never going lower. I would bet any amount of money on it, just because that's business. They might go on sale or something. Here, if I was the new head of like the brand and I said, like, I want to start lowering prices, they would say no. And so what I would do is I'd try to get some windowed boxes, even if there's no plastic, the way they do with the Transformers, just be able to see them, figure out a different solution somehow. But more important than that, if I can't lower the prices, which I'm betting they won't, because somewhere along the chain, someone's going to be like, no, we got this amount of money for it last year. Why would we go down? That's ridiculous. Then you have to do better paint apps, more accessories, better quality control, include a comic, keep the price point the same, fine, but give more value. That's what I would say. And then hold it there for 10 years or so. Because that's the other thing, is the price was the same forever. I know Lightning Collection's new, but Marvel Legends have been $20 forever. 10 years at least.
Probably more than that. I want to say, like, when did they come back? 2012? Maybe it was a little less than 10 years.
They started less than 20, but at some point they hit 20 and they stayed that way. And here's the thing. it has been a long time. There is inflation. Things do cost more. So when they first were like, oh, they're going to go up, to $21.99, people didn't really flip out. It was like, all right, that's a bummer, but okay, But then it's like, okay, they're going up, and they keep going up, and then making figures that aren't deluxes across many lines. And so I don't see those numbers going back down. But give more value and then hold that number for a long time. And that's the fix, which isn't great, but that's what I see. And then if you're gonna do these Kickstarters or HasLabs, whatever you call them, and this is, again, some of this is coming from Spectre Creative, but I agree, it's not about the price is part of it. That Ghost Rider was overpriced, but it wasn't something that was super in demand. And don't get me wrong, there are Robbie Reyes fans, and I like Ghost Rider, and I'm not even a big fan of him specifically. That card did look cool. Yeah. For $100, I probably would have got it. But if you're going to be charging that much money, it has to be something that's like everybody is dying for. Everybody wanted Galactus. Everyone wanted the sail barge. This was sort of out of nowhere. It's like, what? Why this exactly? Like all the ones that did well, I was like, yep, I see. Yeah. Even if I don't want it, somebody wants it. And this isn't the first time they've done this, where it's just like, kind of like, why did they do this one? Nobody was asking for this. It was like with the sister lightsaber from Kenobi.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a bad product, but it was very expensive. Anybody that collects lightsabers already has a few lightsabers, and that show just came out, and it was just a weird, we don't even know who this character is yet, and here, this is more expensive than any other lightsaber they've ever made, and no, there was just no demand. It wasn't a garbage.
What was it? Both failed Kickstarters have the same point that you said. They're not cool enough for the price.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You have to either objectively be like, this is worth the money because of this amount of plastic and this amount of or it has to be so cool that all the fanboys are like, oh my God, that's so expensive. It's not worth it, but I have to have it.
And I know you don't have yours out, but Unicron.
Yeah, Unicron.
Unicron, you could argue, and I'm not arguing it, but you could argue should have been cheaper than it was.
Right.
But no one said this isn't cool.
Right. And because there were a million people that have been waiting for a huge Unicron that turns into a planet for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, however long they've been collecting, is what any G1 hardcore, or even later seasons that had Unicron. Everybody wants Unicron. And so, yeah, it was stupid expensive. I don't know if it was objectively worth it or not. I don't know. But that wasn't a factor in my mind. I have to have it. And
it was the second big Unicron you had ever seen, and you're like, yup.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. And that's what they need to do if they're going to charge those prices. With this Kickstarter, it just seemed like something they could have put out in the store. And
yes, exactly.
It made no sense why it was a Kickstarter. And they had all the swappable pieces. Don't give swappable pieces. Who is going to display that car as a regular car? Who needs it? And maybe there's a few people that might want to, but that's not the demand. You want the fire, the engine, the crazy hell car. That's what people want. You just give them that. And then, charge $100, put it in the store. It would sell. I would buy one for $100. I would buy
if they put that with a little bit less accessories, or maybe some differences, something making it lesser, and put it in a similar size box as a Titan class Transformer, it would sell.
Titan class?
Yes.
Titan class is you can't see it. It's like Fortress Maximus.
Yeah. You don't think the way they've been packaging the Blue Centurion deluxe figure, they couldn't fill a box that big?
Wait, okay, now you lost me. You're saying you're talking about the engine of Vengeance.
Yes.
That car and that figure in a box as big as a Titan class? That makes no sense.
Yeah, because it's a big thing on a shelf, and it's like $200, and it's at Target or Walmart or whatever.
$200. No, make it $100. $200.
I don't think that they would never make it $100. A figure slightly bigger than this, they're selling for $35. You think they're going to sell a car for $100 with a figure?
The figure is cheap, though. The figure has reusability. The figure is a $20, $25 figure. That makes the car $75, $80. That seems reasonable.
I don't disagree with that. I'm saying they would never do that. I'm saying in the compromise, if you did that, it would sell. $350 was too high. $200, people would still kind of hem and haw, but they would get it.
Maybe. I don't know. You'd still have to be a huge fan of that character. I wouldn't for $200.
I think plenty of people would, because they had 5,000 people ready to get the $350.
Maybe you're right, but I do take issue with your idea of putting it in a huge box, because that costs more to package it bigger. And I think giving it like a try me feature would be awesome. To like so you can see that it lights up. I don't think they're going to do that with the Windows package.
But I don't think with something that expensive they haven't anything exposed similar to Titan class these days.
Well, it might be maybe at like a GameStop or something you have it out, like not in like a
party. But that'd be GameStop exclusive, and we know how those go.
No, I'm just saying if they sold it at GameStop and places like that, in addition, Think Geek Store, they could display it that way. But also the big box, and this again, credit to Spectre Creative, although it's kind of common sense. Companies pay for the space they have in Target. So if you can fit 5 of those cars on a shelf in a smaller box or 2 huge boxes, it behooves you to fit in the smaller box. And then, because also if you have 2 huge boxes and they both sell, then now it's empty, So I don't think giving it a really huge big box is the answer. Maybe getting some cool custom artwork or something like that, or,
maybe either way though, box size aside, I think that plan would work better than what they did. And bringing it back to Lightning Collection again, I am fearful because they have yet to do a Lightning Collection HasLab, and the more hits and misses they get, the more I'm hyped and not hyped. Go ahead. The other Legends ones they did, awesome. You and I have a Sentinel. We both didn't get Galactus, but you didn't, did you?
I did not know.
Okay, but I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah, it did well, and people like it.
Yep.
And I got Unicron, and I got the His Tank from going back to GI.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And the His Tank is an example of that was when you're talking about the $200 Ghost Rider car. That's what the His Tank was for me. It was a little bit more than I thought it should be. But I was like, wow, I like G.I. Joe. It's going to be cool to have that as like a centerpiece with my figures. They don't, they haven't really done a lot of vehicles other than a motorcycle. Also, this goes back to HasLab / Kickstarter campaigns. Stretch goals and early birds are like a double-edged sword because a lot of times they build them, the company builds it with the idea that we're going to end up giving these 3 other figures that we have to tool and throw them in. Or we're not going to give away. But then if they don't reach those tiers, because a lot of times they'll say, oh, it's worth $350 because you get the car and these 4 or 5 figures. But if you don't get those figures, that's like a really bad deal now.
Yeah.
And so with the His Tank, it had an early bird that was different than the Ghost Rider. The Ghost Rider was a true early bird, where if they hit this much in the first week, you get an extra figure. They didn't hit it, you don't get it. Now they kind of backtracked and gave like an alternate head, sort of halfway. And then they didn't hit any of the other stretch goals and it failed. His Tank had a weird early bird, which I don't know if it helped or didn't. I mean, it did fund, but it was if they hit the goal within the first week, you get an extra figure. You get the driver, and I think it wasn't the tactician. It was another driver.
It was something I convinced you to do.
Well, yeah, it was another driver type character is the point. You get a second figure. But you didn't have to back it in that first week. With Ghost Rider, you did. And with the Eternia playset coming out, do you want to get King's Grayskull? You have to back. It was if it funds, everybody gets it. So I waited until like week 3 or 4 or whatever, knowing I would get that early bird anyway. And then more tiers unlocked, and there was like effects pieces, an alternate canopy, and another figure. And in the end, I forget if I'm getting 3 figures or 4.
I think you're getting 3, but I could be wrong.
3 figures that are all related to the tank. They're all exclusive, like tank driver, tactician, munitions people that you're not going to get as just a regular figure usually, or if you do, it'll be different. And a whole bunch of effect parts and extra things in with the tank. At that point, and now because I paid it a while ago, I think it was $250. Maybe
I think so too.
It would be 3 after shipping or whatever. So let's say it was $300. I feel like that's still a bit much, but $300 for the tank, all those figures, all that extra accessories, it's a little more than I'd like, but okay. If, however, it was a tank without any of the extra stuff and one figure, it's a complete ripoff.
Yes.
So maybe they need to start getting rid of the idea of these stretch goals, just saying, hey, look, it's $300 and you're going to get all this stuff. You want it?
I think to your point though, and part of the reason that one in the Galactus is really the other example I can think of where everybody was in for the little bit they saw with the hopes of things on the horizon, and then it was gravy. I think that gravy is what made them not just successful, but grossly successful.
Well, and that's probably true for Galactus, but also Sentinel and the His Tank are both army builders.
Yes.
We each only got 1 Sentinel. I only got 1 His Tank, but there are people that got like 5 His Tanks or 5 Sentinels or, you know, and that's probably the people that are either much richer or have much more room than us. And, or if you only collect G.I. Joe, again, Why not get 5 hit tank? That's all you collect. Cool, make a little squad.
Or I know people that got like 3, and one of them paid for like 1.5.
Right, but depending on what it is, a specific character like Robbie Ray's Ghost Rider. If you're the type of person that likes to open one and keep one sealed, okay, you get 2. Or if you're the kind of person that wants to display one in civilian form and whatever form, fine, you get 2. But that's not the average.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody, if they collect Star Wars, will get a couple Stormtroopers. If they collect Power Rangers, will get a couple putties. Like there are certain figures that you get a couple. Why not? So yeah, going back to your point of Lightning Collection potential HasLab. My first thought was like, what would they do? Because I'm thinking of figures and vehicles. I wasn't thinking of Megazords, but they have the Zord Ascension project. So it'd be weird if they had a Zord in there.
I thought of something.
There is the role play stuff and weapons and morphers and things like that. That I could see maybe being something. What?
A dragon shield.
Like this? Why?
Because they have the helmets already.
I guess I'm just thinking with as many people that cosplay and make props and stuff, like it's available now if you want it. You know what I mean? Why would you need to go through Hasbro to get it?
Because maybe they do one that is sturdier and has lights and sounds and all that jazz, and it's a cool thing they've never done. And it's Mighty Morphin.
It is Mighty Morphin. I think if they were gonna do something, then I mean, I guess they're kind of on the way to this, but like what do you call? Oh, I'm blanking. The Mega Blaster, where they put all the weapons together from Mighty Morphin. Is that what?
The Power Blaster? You already are technically building that, though.
That's what I'm saying. Like that to me would be, if they weren't already kind of halfway there, would be more the thing that people would want than the shield. Because the shield, like you got to kind of wear it, and again, like you could get it, and probably cheaper. A lot of the stuff they're putting out, like the Zed helmet, like there are things that I could think of. Like, well, there is.
All right, Magic Wand. What are you making
from Lightning Collection
for a Kickstarter and a role play item? We'll just stick it, just role play item, and it's going to be early. Like it can't be like a Jungle Fury bracelet. Like it's nothing like that.
Wait, I thought it's a Magic Wand.
All right, Magic Wand it, but also I'm going to make mine semi-realistic.
Okay, go. You do yours first because I need to think for a minute.
Well, I also need to think. I guess not including the shield, because that's honestly what I would say.
Right. But yeah, I mean, if that's what you really believe, I just don't think that's a great choice personally.
I could see them doing it. Other than that, I mean, what would be a role play item that they either haven't done or
has to be Mighty Morphin theoretically.
I'm thinking their first one is Mighty Morphin. I mean,
with the first one, sure. Because a lot of the stuff, like something that might be cool, but nobody would buy, would be like, like a life-size alpha. It's like, and like moves like R2D, but who nobody really wants that. I mean, a few people do, but like it even sounds cool to me. But I'm like, how often am I going to press
that?
What?
I said you would never buy it.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like it sounds cool, but yes, like same thing with like a big Zordon head on your wall. Like probably not. Like. And most of the weapons either are out or probably to come out. We've had all the morphers.
We haven't had a band or a Hasbro communicator, but like, I mean, you could.
You don't need to do a HasLab for that. Shark Cycle, maybe a Shark Cycle. How would you do that? There would have to be like a motorcycle. That's the thing. I think all the Mighty Morphin stuff, I don't see how they would do a HasLab for it because it's all
except for the shield.
I mean, you're kind of right, but I just don't think that's a good product. I don't think it's a good. It would have to be. It would have to be more toyetic and less cosplay, because it would have to be kind of in a weird way, like less accurate and be sturdier and have light and sound and stuff that it didn't really have, so that it'd be kind of fun to play with. But then it would. I mean, how much would you pay for that? Like 100, 200? And
no, they would make that thing. I think like 4 or 5.
That's what I'm saying. I don't see that work. I think Zords make the most sense. I think. Like the Shogun. Wait, the Shogun's the one that's made out of all the houses, right?
Yeah.
Like the Shogun Megazord or Serpentera or some really big Zord, like big even for the Zord Ascension project. Maybe do that as a HasLab.
What about like an enormous Titanus?
I guess, but I'm going Serpentera. I would not buy a Titanus. I would buy a Serpentera. And I think more people would, because I think
like an articulated Serpentera.
Yeah, and I think it's just cooler. I think not as many people that aren't Power Ranger fans would get Titanus, but I think there are people who aren't big Power Ranger fans that would just get a big robot dragon that looks cool.
Yeah.
So I guess if I'm going Mighty Morphin, I'm going to say like a super deluxe $400-500 Serpentera. That would be what I would do.
I think they can't make it more than
500.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be 500. I'm just saying whatever.
I know. I'm just thinking because like I'm trying to use Unicron as like a scale example.
All right. Can I do my magic wand one now that has nothing to do with what people
go
really
for
want? And it's complete waste.
Yep.
But Jungle Fury, you're right. It is Jungle Fury. Solar Morphers. Because they will never make them. They had like a kid version that wasn't even accurate and wouldn't fit. It's not even like other toys. I want a pair of sunglasses that look exactly like the ones that they wore.
Have you ever looked on Etsy for those?
A long time ago I did. I haven't looked recently, but they didn't when I looked. But yeah, that is a ridiculous thing that nobody would want. They shouldn't do it. That's bad business. That's just what I want. What is good business would be Serpentera. That would be.
Yeah, what would my magic one be?
We almost did kind of come back to the
magic wand thing. I know. That's why I kind of brought it around. Serpentera is pretty up there. Like I would love a good new Serpentera.
Yeah.
Pyramidas, I think, is too out of left field for them to start.
I mean, yeah, I agree. Although a good Pyramidas would be nice because I know you have it, but it's just like a chunk of cheese.
Oh, it is. It's a giant brick. It's a cool brick, but it's just a big old brick.
Yeah.
We're already getting the Astro Mega ship. That'd actually be cool. Like a new and improved Lightspeed Rescue Train Megazord would be kind of cool.
Ooh, that would be awesome. That's one of my favorite vintage Zords. But again, I thought we were kind of trying to stick to Mighty Morphin.
No. This is Magic Wand. I'm like spitballing.
Magic Wand.
I'm spitballing Magic Wand stuff.
I would love it if there was a new. What was it called? Lightspeed. What was the train Zord? I can't remember.
I thought it was like Super Train Megazord. I don't know.
Maybe it was Super Train.
I'm probably wrong, but
no, yeah, who knows? But yeah, that I would love that. That's when they made a mini Plav, I think, that I was kind of tempted to get. But like part of what I love about it is how huge it is, you know?
Yeah, I get no, because I was gonna say there's so many things I'm thinking of, but Bandai's already made like memorial versions of or like new and improved versions where I'm like, oh, maybe why would they do a Super Mega Force thing? That'd be stupid.
I was also thinking going back to like Mighty Morphin, I veered off into Turbo because I'm like, well, like the Turbo Megazord, given like a really good version of that, even though it's not quite Mighty Morphin. But then I was like, but that's a Zord Ascension project. That like if they're gonna do that, it doesn't need to be anything more.
So yeah, I don't want to use a wand on this, but I think it would be cool for marketing.
Yeah.
If they did a HasLab of a Cosmic Fury Morpher with a helmet for like red, let's say, and like, you know, it's a little bit more than the regular one, but it's like to the nines, and it'd be again to help promote Cosmic Fury when it comes out. I don't know if I
go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't necessarily want to use a wand on it, but it would be cool because it is a Power Rangers thing.
Right. And it would be cool if they released it before the season came out.
Yeah.
Because I remember several times buying things, Star Wars specifically, like buying figures before Phantom Menace came out or whatever, like anything. Like, this hasn't even come out yet. Like, this is the thing. Like, there's something extra exciting about that. That like, oh, look, they made a sound or said a character's name that now we know, or, you know. Yeah.
All right, Magic Wand, titanium helmet with Morpher.
I thought you would have went for the weapon, to be honest, but yeah.
And the weapon. The whole kit and caboodle.
So I'm like, I want sunglasses. You're like, I want a full suit.
I essentially want them to make a cosplay that I can order.
I mean, once again, you could probably go get that from somebody, but yeah. So despite the fact that we're fans of these franchises and we generally support Hasbro, I mean, with my dollars, I certainly do. There's a lot of room for improvement. We're not the first people to say this. This is not what this video was supposed to be about, but hey, the tangent. I think next week we have an interview.
We do.
And then the following week, unless something else comes up, I guess we'll continue with the top 10 list.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not going to commit to this, but just spitballing. I think when we do the Lightning Collection one, we should not be friendly and talk about our lives beforehand and just spend all of that time to do part 2 and 3 together and wrap up the Lightning stuff.
Yeah, we don't want to be friendly.
No, not at all. I barely like the guy. This is strictly business.
What was your name again?
It's right there. Read. Use your eyeballs.
Big Dawg.
Yeah.
Okay, Big Dawg.
Soft W.
Dawg.
Big Doge.
Big Doge. Oh, I see. Okay.
Well, yeah, he's been Gazbot. I've been Big Dawg, and Hasbro. If you're listening and tapping our communication lines, please know that we want to continue to support you. Just pull back on the Uncle Scrooge greed hammer a little bit, and it'll be easier for everybody.
Yes, and get rid of windowless boxes.
Yes, they're atrocious and a blight to humanity.
And
to
if
the
you're gonna
power.
keep them, fix the power. Fix the pictures. Fix the pictures.
Real advertising, not fake advertising.
Yeah, there you go. And yes, as you said, to the power. Okay.
Boom.
And I was gonna hit end recording, but I have to end credits.
You can do whatever you want. It's our show.
And not yours. You ever watch I don't know if I've ever asked you that.
Do I ever watch what?
What's the name of the show?
The show I've not, no.
Drag Queen, Trixie Mattel and Katya do it. I'm not,
You're so difficult to hear. I can't even fully understand what you're saying.
I think you can. I think the words I'm saying are just ridiculous.
No. Like you were quiet during the end credits, and now I can hear you again.
It's a show called It's
Okay.
on YouTube, elsewhere probably also. It's been going on for years. It's like a comedy show of two idiots talking about dumb stuff. It's that's us. But it's two drag queens. It's Trixie Mattel and Katya, just talking about various topics. But it's very funny. They're funny. Part of what's funny is the editing that they do on top of them and stuff. I'm not a big drag queen fan specifically, but they're from RuPaul's Drag Race. Drag Race. That's why they're famous. But as someone who isn't particularly a fan of drag queen entertainment, I'm not against it. It's just not my favorite thing. I really like this show. It's very funny and I enjoy it. So I don't know why I brought that up at all. But anyway,
shout out to on YouTube, and also shout out to Screen Rant and Pitch Meeting, because we like them and don't plug them enough.
Ryan George.
Yep.
We don't do it. I thought it would be hard to talk about them, but it was super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, really?
Yeah.